In this video, we're coming to look at the method of completing squares. If we take the expansion of x plus 4 all squared, this is the same as x squared plus 8x plus 16, or we can simply say 4 squared. If we rearrange this expression, we have x squared plus 8x. This is x squared plus 8x, so we can take 4 to the other side. Then this will be equal to x plus 4 all squared minus 4 squared. We take 4 squared across the equal to sign. If we consider another example, x plus 10 all squared, this is the same as x squared plus 20x plus 10 squared. If we take 10 squared to the other side, it means x squared plus 20x will be equal to x plus 10 squared minus 10 squared, because when 10 squared moves to the other side, it becomes negative. Okay, let's add one more example and see what happens. Maybe x minus 6 all squared. This will be the same as x squared minus 12x plus 6 squared. And when we rearrange this is x squared minus 12x. So x squared minus 12x, we take 6 to the other side. That becomes x minus 6 all squared. So that becomes x minus 6 all squared minus 6 squared. Now let's look at this. We can see that if we have x squared plus 8x, we have x plus 4. That is half the coefficient of x all squared minus 4 squared. The coefficient of x is halved minus 4 squared minus the same value squared. The same thing applies to this one. X squared plus 20x, the coefficient of x is 20. Half of it is 10. So we got x plus 10 all squared minus 10 squared. The value here squared. The same thing applies to this. We got x squared minus 12x. The coefficient of x is negative 12. Half of negative 12 is negative 6. So we got x minus 6 all squared minus the same value squared. So always we can see that we need to have the coefficient of x and square it and then subtract from it. That means let's complete this and see. If you have x squared minus 6x, what would that be? If you have x squared minus 7x plus 1, what would that be? If you have maybe x squared minus 3x plus 4, what would that be? Now let's see. The coefficient of x is negative 6. So half of negative 6 is negative 3. So we expect to have x minus 3 all squared minus, this is negative 3, right? So minus 3 squared. Of course, minus negative 3 squared is the same as 3 squared. If we can say minus negative 3 squared, doesn't matter. The coefficient of x is negative 7. Half of negative 7 is negative 7 over 2. So we can say x minus 7 over 2, or simply 3.5, all squared minus the same value squared, 7 over 2 squared. If we come here, x squared minus 3x plus 4. Okay, sorry, there is plus 1 here. So we can add the 1 and we can conclude that this is the same as x minus 7 over 2 all squared. Then we got negative 7 over 2 all squared plus 1. So anyway, if you're not sure, you can use a calculator. Negative 7 squared is 49. And 2 squared is 4 plus 1. That gives us negative 45 over 4. If we come here, if we consider the first two, half of the coefficient of x will be negative 3 over 2 because the coefficient of x is negative 3. So this will become x minus 3 over 2 all squared. Remember, this is for the first two terms. We still have plus 4. So minus, this is negative 3 over 2. So negative 3 over 2 or 3 over 2 squared. Of course, there is plus 4. And this is the same as x minus 3 over 2 all squared. We have negative 3 over 2 all squared plus 4. Negative 3 over 2 all squared is actually 9 over 4. So we got 9 over 4 plus negative 9 over 4 plus 4. And that will be, I think it's about 7 over 4. Yeah. So this is the method of completing squares. Remember, the coefficient of s squared in both cases is 1. The coefficient of s squared is 1. The coefficient of s squared is 1. So if you've been given a problem where the coefficient of s squared is not 1, you need to factorize the coefficient of s squared out so that it will be 1. Let's look at some example like that, where the coefficient of s squared is not 1. Let's consider this example. Maybe example 1 is 7 minus 8x minus 2s squared. Another example 2, let's say 3 minus 12x minus 2s squared. Maybe a last example, 2, maybe plus 5x minus 3s squared. Okay, let's start from here. We can see that the coefficient of s squared is not 1. So it's actually negative 2. So we can factorize negative 2 out. If we factorize negative 2 out, negative 2s squared becomes x squared. Because when we multiply negative 2, we got negative 2s squared. And negative 8 will become positive 4x. Because when you multiply negative 2 by 4, you got negative 8. So negative 8x. And positive 7 will actually be negative 7 over 2. So that when we multiply negative 2 by negative 7 over 2, we got positive 7. So this expression is the same as this. Now, negative 2 is out. Now, coefficient of s squared is 1. Remember, the coefficient of x is 4. And as we said in the previous example, we have the coefficient of x. So if we have 4, we get 2. So this will be x plus 2 all squared, of course, minus 2 squared. But there is negative 7 over 2, so minus 7 over 2. And this is the same as negative 2 is still out. X plus 2 all squared minus 2 squared. This is negative 4. This is negative 4, right? Minus 7 over 2. So that will give us negative 15 over 2. But 2 is outside, so we can multiply through by 2. Negative 2 is outside. We can multiply through by negative 2. So we have negative 2x plus 2 squared. If you multiply negative 2 by negative 15 over 4, negative 15 over 2, we have positive 15. We can apply the same thing here. The coefficient of s squared is not 1, it's negative 2. So we can factorize negative 2 out. If we factorize negative 2 out, this will be x squared, because negative 2 times s squared becomes negative 2s squared. And this will be positive 6x. So that when we multiply negative 2 by negative 6s, we have negative 12x. This is positive 3. So it must be negative 3 over 2. So that when we open the bracket, we multiply negative 2 by negative 3 over 2, we got positive 3. So in this case, negative 2 is out. The coefficient of s squared is now 1, so we can complete the square. The coefficient of x is 6. So we need to have it. Half of 6 is 3. So we have x plus 3 squared. This is 3. So minus this 3 squared. Of course, there is still negative of 3 over 2 outside. So we got negative 2 x plus 3 all squared. This is the same as negative 3 squared is 9. So we got negative 9 minus 3 over 2, which will give us negative 21 over 2. Now we can open the bracket. If we multiply negative 2 by x plus 3 all squared, we have negative 2x plus 3 all squared. If we multiply negative 2 by negative 21 over 2, that gives us positive 21. So let's look at the last one. The coefficient of x squared is not 1, it's negative 3. So we need to factorize negative 3 out. When we do that, we have x squared. So that when we open the bracket, we have negative 3x squared. This is 5, positive 5. So this must be negative 5 over 3x. So that when we multiply negative 3 by negative 5 over 3, we will get positive 5x. This is positive 2. So we can have negative 2 over 3. So that when we multiply negative 3 by negative 2 over 3, we have positive 2. So negative 3 is outside. The coefficient of x is negative 5 over 3. So half of negative 5 over 3 is 5 over 6. So this will be x minus 5 over 6 all squared. Because half of 5 over 3, negative 5 over 3 is 5 over negative 5 over 6. Of course, we need to subtract this 5 over 6 all squared. Then there is still negative 2 over 3 here. This negative 2 over 3 here. So we got negative 3 x minus 5 over 6 all squared. Now, we have negative 5 over 6 all squared. That is 5 squared is 25 and 6 squared is 36 minus 2 over 3. So it's basically 25 over 36, negative 25 over 36 minus 2 over 3. And that gives, I think, is 49, negative 49 over 36. I think it's correct. We can open the bracket. So we multiply negative 3, x minus 5 over 2 squared, negative 3 times negative 49 over 36. That becomes negative times negative is positive 49 over 12. So that is the method of completing squares. Please subscribe to my channel. All right, see you.